Hello, welcome to another edition of the VOD Weekly News Recap. I am Glorious Haddijatou Njie. Good evening. Now let's look at the headlines. Indian community donates dozens of COVID-19 t-shirts to Ministry of Health. Gambia's new vice president sworn in. Sheriffo Saho withdraws from the back race. KMC councillors refute former mayor's corruption allegation against Mayor Bensouda. Speaker Jatta warns cabinet ministers to avoid contempt of parliament. Ghana's army owes up to brutality, issues apology. First ever surgery performed on board largest civilian hospital ship in Senegal. At least 2 dead and 23 missing in mini ferry sinking in Gabon. Nigeria's Electoral Commission postpones election for new state governors. Russia kills civilians in first huge missile wave for weeks. French young people join protest against Macron's pension reform plans. Malaysian ex-Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin arrested, faced corruption charge. Syrian women find strength in the aftermath of the earthquake. Those were the headlines. Now let's look at the news in details. The Association of Indian Community in the Gambia on Monday, 6th March, donated dozens of printed COVID-19 t-shirts to the Ministry of Health at the Central Medical Store in Kotu. This donation is set to support Gambia's risk communication and community engagement of the current nationwide COVID-19 vaccination campaign. During the handing over ceremony, the president of the Indian Association of the Gambia, Mr. Kumar, mentioned that it is a small gesture from their community, as they have done in the past when the pandemic was on.
This is a small gesture from our community, on behalf of the Indian Social and Cultural Association. And as Mr. Jallo stated, we had in the past, whilst the pandemic was on, had distributed 2,000 parcels of food items to 2,000 families during the crisis. Having said that, our Indian government also contributed by sending by air 7 tons of medicines and other other items, which was actually handed over by Honorary Consul General to the Ministry of Health.
Mr. Lamin Sise, senior logistician at the expanded program on immunization, also stated that they definitely have to take a lot of dimensions for them to fight COVID-19 and thank the Indian community for their support, hoping that their partnership will definitely continue. The Honorary Council of the Indian Community of the Gambia stated that the Indian collaboration with the Gambia has been high and it's growing every year, and that they have always been able to come forward each time whenever called upon.
Very rightly so, the Indian collaboration with the Gambia has been always been a high, and it's growing. It's growing every year. Really happy to announce just a few days ago we celebrated something called iTech Day, which provides scholarships. iTech is the short-term scholarships given by the Indian government in capacity building to the Gambia. Very happy to say that Gambia is the largest user in the whole of the African continent of the iTech program. We have about 60 scholarships every year for the short-term programs, and all are utilized. All the courses are, in fact, there's a large demand for these courses. So that it just shows that how we are growing in our collaboration.
He further said, India is probably the largest manufacturer of vaccines in the world, and they've been able to use some of the vaccines from India in these programs make them very proud. President Adama Barrow on Monday presided over the swearing-in ceremony of the country's new vice president following the demise of former VP Badara Aliu Diouf. At a ceremony held at the State House in Banjul, President Barrow stated that, having reflected on many qualified Gambians for the appointment to the second highest office in the country, he deemed it fitting to appoint Mohamed B.S. Jallo as Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia.
During his tenure as Secretary General, Mr. Jallow earned my trust and respect based on his performance and comportment. He demonstrated a high degree of professionalism and loyalty to the nation.
Barrow urged him to maintain and promote the cordial team spirit and high sense of professionalism that bind cabinet members in their collective task of developing the Gambia with unquestionable sincerity. The new Vice President, Mohamed B.S. Jallow, speaks on the late VP Badara Aliu Juf during his swearing-in at the State House and said the late VP was his teacher and mentor.
The late Vice President was a very committed individual. Like I said, he taught me in school, and he was also our permanent secretary at the Ministry of Education at the time. And his commitment to duty was unquestioned. And I'm sure some colleagues here can attest to that.
Shirifo Sonko withdraws from the back race. Aissatou Sow reports.
The chairman of the Birkama Area Council, Shirifo Sonko, has explained that his decision to withdraw from the race to be the National People's Party candidate in the upcoming local government elections is entirely personal. Addressing a press conference on Tuesday in Birkama, Sonko said that following true reflection, he have had to decide that for personal reasons, his best option is to opt out of the 2023 race. Chairman Sonko expressed sincere gratitude and appreciation to his family and all those who stood by him for the past 4 years or so.
I thank our dear leader, His Excellency, Mr. Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, for his patience, untiring support and guidance to me in all my time in office. Turning to his journey in the NPP, Chairman Sonko added, "It was a long journey for me, from the inception of the Barrow Youth Movement to the birth of our great party, the National People Party, a progressive People's Movement Party. In all my affiliations with the party and my time BAC, I have sacrificed all and stuck my neck out in defense of the truth and in the service of my people." Aissatou Sow reporting for VOD.
A group of councillors in the Kanifing municipality, headed by Karamo Sise, councillor of Talinding South Ward, who doubled as the chairman of the Finance and Revenue Committee, has refound corruption allegations against KMC Mayor Talib Ahmed Bensouda on Tuesday by Yankuba Koli, the former mayor on the PRC. Mr. Koli said that Talib Bensouda don't know his staffs and they can't access him anytime without booking an appointment.
If the mayor is accused of doing something wrong, he should he should solve that. It's not easy to lead, but if you are leading also, you should also put people by yourself. People should be inclusive. We should be included. If you check on him, he don't know even his staff. He don't know them. He don't attend to them. He don't go to them. They have to look appointment to see him.
Karamo Sise revealed that during Yankuba Koli's tenure, individuals were collecting monthly salaries without offering any service to the council, and that there are ghost workers who will come to the council every month to collect salaries, claiming they are the council staff.
The time we came in office, so we find out that based on the entry management report, former councils were involved in the illegal leasing of KMC property. Most of the prime land of KMC have been illegally sold to an individuals. Example, that is, or leased to an individual. Example, that is the KMC Youth Monument. A youth monument that is purposely designed for the youths of KMC. It is youths who have been deprived not to use it for free, and then it was been leased to Gamtel. Gamtel, Gamcel. All these things are on record.
Honorable Fabakary Tombong Jatta, Speaker of the Gambia's 6th legislature, has warned cabinet ministers to avoid missing parliamentarian appointments and contempt of parliament on the first day of the first session of the 2023 legislative year, which took place on the 6th March 2023. According to Speaker Jatta, Parliament Assembly Business Committee (ABC) has noted grave concern that some honourable ministers do fail to appear before this August Assembly on their scheduled business date during previous sessions. This is not acceptable to the committee, and this has to be ceased.
Before this Assembly are urged and required to attend in person to their business pursuant to Section 74 of the 1997 Constitution. This is the requirement of the law as well as the dictate of parliamentary democracy. In this circumstance, the Assembly Business Committee strongly reiterates its zero stance on any honorable minister who fails to attend to his or her business as scheduled, and non-attendance is tantamount to contempt of the Assembly in accordance with Section 75 or Section 110 of the Constitution.
This is not the first time the ABC is warning ministers to avoid missing scheduled parliamentarian sittings. He elaborated in the past. The Speaker of the Fifth Legislature, Honorable Mariam Jack Dental, suspended 7 bills tabled by the Honorable Minister of Justice, Haddijatou. The suspension came as a result of the Justice Minister's failure to attend a National Assembly sitting on Tuesday, 8 February 2022. Speaker Dental, who doubled as the chairman of the ABC, highlighted in her ruling that the committee has decided that all pending matters and businesses of the Attorney General dealing with bills, emphasized is on bills, be written off in the current agenda of this first ordinary session 2022. Now let's look at the news across our borders in details. Ghana's Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amangwa Manu has apologized for military excesses after soldiers were deployed early Tuesday in Ashaiman, a suburb of the capital, Accra. Soldiers unleashed mayhem on some residents of Ashaiman on Tuesday, with helicopter flying over the area because a young military officer, Trooper Imoro Sherif, was allegedly stabbed in the town on Saturday, March 4, 2023. The Ghana Armed Forces GAF has disclosed that its operation in the area to find the killer of the military man was sanctioned by its high command. GAF wishes to state categorically that the military operations, which was sanctioned by the military high command, was not to avenge the killing of the soldier, but rather to fish out the perpetrators of the crime, GAF said in its statement on Wednesday. In an interview with local media, Mr. Amangwa Manu, Deputy Defense Minister, said, "If decent, innocent residents of Ashaima were caught up in these operations, I, in my capacity as Deputy Defense Ministry, apologize for that." He, however, added that the ministry will not apologize for the operation. The Ghana Armed Forces, in the statement, announced that following the operation at Ashaima, Talif, and Tulaku, the military personnel picked up about 184 suspects aged between 21 to 47 years old and have since handed them over to the military police. Trooper Sherif, who was sanctioned in Suyahi, was in Accra on the course and had sought permission to visit his parents at Ashaima, where he grew, but was found in a pool of blood in the early hours of Saturday near the Amahi Hotel in Ashaima. Medical teams on board the world's largest civilian hospital ship performed Tuesday, 7th March, the first of 40 planned pediatric orthopedic-free surgeries this month. Amadou, a 4-year-old, who was the first patient to receive a surgery on board the Global Mercy ship, which is in Dakar, Senegal. He was born with one wild swing leg and one bowed leg, 2 conditions that can be corrected by early intervention. This is also the first time that one ship will serve 2 countries through one port. At the invitation of the Senegalese government, up to 25% of the surgery patients are expected from nearby the Gambia. Over the next 4 months, the Global Mercy will provide more than 800 surgeries. At present, there are no fully certified pediatric orthopedic surgeons practicing in Senegal. During the previous 2022 field service, Mercyship provided training and mentoring for more than 2,500 participants. Gabon, at least 2 deaths and 23 missing in mini ferry sinking. Haddijatou reports.
A sinking of a mini ferry in Gabon, departing from Libreville to reach Port Gentil, has left at least 2 people dead and 28 missing. A port authority official who wished to remain anonymous told AFP on Thursday. After the departure of the passenger ship, the crew reported an ingress of water between 3 and 4 a.m. The company Royal Coast Marine said Thursday morning on its Facebook page. This intrusion resulted in the losing of control of the vessel. Authorities have been alert and rescue is on the sea. Passengers are being rescued, the company said. At the port Molpe, where the boat left with 151 passengers on board, 6 ambulances were lined on the quay alongside a fire truck. At midday, the first motorized pirogue were beginning to bring back the survivors, an AFP journalist noted. The survivors were being taken directly to the ambulance to receive first aid, and a tent is being set up to accommodate them. Facing the stretchers lined up on the platform, the families, ranged by anxiety, are kept away. They are trying to keep up on the barriers blocking the access to the docks, hoping to see one of their relatives. According to the family members present, a crisis cell was set up on Thursday morning. Haddijatou reporting for VOD.
Nigeria's Election Commission has postponed the West African nation's March 11 gubernatorial elections, an official announced late Wednesday, citing logistic challenges. The election for a new governor of 28 of Nigeria's 36 states will now be held on 18th March. The move will allow more time for voting machines used in last month's presidential and legislative elections to be reconfirmed and deployed for the upcoming vote, said Festus, the spokesman for Nigerian Independent National Electorate Commission, in a statement. The gubernatorial vote is part of Nigeria's general elections for 4 years single term of major political positions, including last month's presidential vote, won by the ruling party's Bola Tinubu. That outcome is being contested by the opposition. Ahead of the elections, a local court on Wednesday approved the electoral body's request to reset the bimodal voting accreditation system, or BVAS machines, part of new technology heavily used this year in Nigerian elections to make them more transparent. However, the court ruling came far too late for the machine to be resent in time for use in the March 11 election, forcing a 1-week extension in the date, the electoral body said. The 2 main opposition parties gave room for votes to tamper with, and that the electoral body did not follow its own rules and the country's own election law in announcing a winner. Now let's look at the international news in details. Russia launched a huge wave of missile strikes across Ukraine while people slept on Thursday, killing at least 6 civilians, knocking out electricity, and briefly forcing Europe's biggest nuclear power plant off the grid. The first such mass attack on target far from the front since mid-February scattered the longest calm since Moscow became an air campaign against Ukraine's civil infrastructure 5 months ago. Kyiv said it included an unprecedented 6 hypersonic cruise missiles, one of Moscow's most vulnerable weapons. The occupiers can only terrorize civilians. That's all they can do. But it won't help them. They won't avoid responsibility for everything they have done, President Zelensky said in a statement describing strikes that hit infrastructure and residential buildings in 10 regions. Russia's defense ministry said it had carried out a massive strike as payback for a cross-border raid last week. It claimed to have hit all its intended targets, destroying bases, disrupting railways, and damaging facilities that make and repair arms. French young people join protests against Macron's pension reform plans. Haddijatou Njie reports.
Young people in France, including some who haven't even entered the job market yet, were protesting on Thursday against the government's push to raise the retirement age. Students blocked access to some universities and high schools, and a youth-led protest is planned in Paris as part of the nation's strike and demonstrations against the pension bill under debate in Parliament. For a generation already worried about inflation, uncertain job prospects, and climate change, the retirement bill is stirring up broader questions about the value of work. I don't want to work all my life and be exhausted at the end, said Jenna, a 15-year-old who blocked her Paris high school with other students during a protest action last month. It is important for us to show that the youth is engaged in its speech. People in their teens and early 20s have taken part in protests against the retirement reform since the movement kicked off in January. But students' groups and unions are seeking to call attention to young people's concerns. Thus, President Emmanuel Macron wants to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 and make other changes he said are needed to keep the public pension system financially stable as the population ages. Opponents argued that wealthy taxpayers or companies should pitch in more to finance the system instead. Haddijatou Njie reporting for VOD.
Malaysian ex-Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin arrested, faces corruption charge. Haddijatou Njie reports.
Veteran politician was arrested after questioning over funds allegedly channeled from building contractor to his party in exchange for projects. Muhyiddin Yassin, who was Malaysia's prime minister as the country blocked down over COVID-19, has been arrested and will be brought to court to face corruption charges. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission said in a statement on Thursday that Muhyiddin was detained after he was questioned over an economic recovery project launched by his government. Muhyiddin, 75, said he was not guilty of corruption and that the allegations against him were politically motivated. He had voluntarily attended questioning at the MACC on Thursday morning regarding allegations that building contractors deposited money into the accounts of his Bersatu party in exchange for contractors' building contracts during the pandemic. MACC chief Azambiki told state news agency Bernama earlier in the day the former prime minister would appear in court on Friday. Muhyiddin was photographed praying and surrounded by supporters around heading into the MACC office, and a number of other Besuti politicians have been questioned over the allegation and 2 have been charged. The anti-corruption agency has froze his party's account in January. Haddijatou Njie reporting for VOD.
As the world marks International Women's Day on Wednesday, women in Syria are facing trauma and displacement a month after devastating earthquake struck North Syria, Mufida Garin, in mourning the loss of a son and the destruction of her home, which collapsed on her and 2 boys, breaking her leg and killing her 18-year-old son. Rescued from under the rubble with her 15-year-old son Ali, the 40-year-old widow now finds herself having to cope with yet another loss, but she has been able to rise to every challenge so far. For the past 6 years, I have been the mother and father at home, she told Al Jazeera. From a tented encampment in Asmarine province, now I have to be a mother, father, and brother for my son. When her recovery is complete, Gernam said she will look for work to try to provide a decent life for what remains of her family. As the world marks International Women's Day on Wednesday, a number of remarkable portraits of women's strength are emerging from northwest Syria as it struggles to recover from the massive earthquakes. Single or widowed women like Guram find themselves forced to live in overcrowded encampments where humanitarian organizations say they are at height risk of harassment and abuse. The International Rescue Committee, IRC, has found that more than 60% of the surviving household had a head of household defined as a person at risk, including female-headed household.
You can't deal with devastation on a scale like this in days or even in weeks. The impact of this is going to be felt by people here in southern Turkey for years. Well, Well, help came very quickly in terms of search and rescue missions. We saw teams from all over the world who flooded into southern Turkey and did what they can to try and find people who were still buried under the rubble for those first 2 weeks. Now things have really changed because, of course, so much time has passed that everybody who may still be under these collapsed buildings has sadly lost their lives. And it's about supporting those people who survived. Now, people you speak to are grateful for things like the tent and the food and the aid, the water, the medicines, but a lot of people will tell you that there is still not enough. This is an area of around about 13 million people stretching across southern Turkey, and they still need an awful lot more aid because, as we were saying there, who knows how long this could last for. The scale of the devastation is so extensive. The size of the population that needs support here is so big that it makes it very difficult to try and provide that huge level of aid that's needed on an ongoing basis.
That's all we have for you today. Until we come your way again, I am Glorious Haddijatou Njie on the VOD Weekly News Recap. Thanks for watching and have a good evening.